Imagine this. You're sitting across from someone new. They're kind, they're honest, they're interested, and yet your chest tightens. You smile, but your jaw is clenched. You're polite, but you don't believe a word they say. You think they're just like the last one, just better at hiding it. You walk away from the date, the opportunity, the compliment, and you tell yourself you're just being careful. But what if you're not being careful? What if you're being haunted, not by ghosts, but by the versions of yourself you never gave a chance to speak? The one who cried and was told to be strong. The one who loved and was laughed at. The one who trusted and got used. You think you're over it because the text stopped, the person left, the story ended. But the part of you that suffered through it is still living in your body, and it's making your choices now. It's deciding who you open up to. It's the reason your stomach flips when someone gets too close. It's why you sabotage good things before they have the chance to hurt you. You're not cold. You're not difficult. You're not dramatic. You're unhealed. And no one taught you how to notice that. Because healing isn't loud. It's not candles or journaling or neatly tied Instagram quotes. It's messy. It's slow. It's so quiet that sometimes it looks like nothing's happening at all. But what's really happening is everything. This video isn't here to comfort you. It's here to show you what's still buried. Because if you don't confront what's controlling you, it will ruin everything you touch. Every dream, every relationship, every day that could have been free, but instead repeats the same old story under a different disguise. You don't have to stay trapped in it, but first, you have to see it. Let's begin. You told yourself it was over. You deleted the messages. You threw away the photos. You even made it through an entire week without thinking about them. Or so you believed. That's what everyone told you to do, right? Move on. Don't look back. Time heals everything. But the truth is, time heals nothing you haven't first acknowledged. What we call closure is often just avoidance dressed in a prettier outfit. It's not healing, it's exhaustion. You got tired of hurting, so you convinced yourself you were fine. But deep down, you know better. Because if you really had closure, why do certain songs still freeze you? Why do places still feel heavy, even though nothing is physically there? Why does your body flinch at a voice that sounds like theirs? Or a laugh that resembles a memory? Closure isn't what we think it is. It's not an ending. It's a reckoning. And most people don't get closure. They get silence. They get unanswered questions. They get, "It just wasn't meant to be," and are left to stitch meaning from the scraps alone. So we fake it. We smile a little wider. We pretend that being unbothered is strength. We tell ourselves, if I don't talk about it, it'll stop existing. But the heart doesn't work like that. The heart remembers, not in words, but in reflexes, in mistrust, in numbness. It stores unfinished business like weapons beneath the surface, ready to protect you from anything that even looks like the past. That's not closure. That's fear, trained to look like wisdom. And here's the worst part. We reward ourselves for it. We say, look at how well I'm doing now. But doing well is not the same as being well. You can build a career, a new life, even a new relationship, while still rotting under the surface with everything you buried alive. Because you never asked the real questions. Not why did they hurt me, but why did I stay? Not why did it end like that, but why does part of me still need their validation to feel worthy? That's what closure really is. It's not them saying sorry. It's you finally sitting with the truth you were afraid to speak, that you were hurt, that it mattered, and that no matter how strong you act, there's still a part of you that's frozen at the moment it all fell apart, waiting to be seen. And it won't stop screaming just because you're busy. It won't disappear just because you've distracted yourself long enough. Real closure is ugly. It's shaking while you admit that you were never okay. It's breaking down in the middle of a normal day because something tiny like a smell or a name shattered your illusion of peace. It's not neat. It's not cinematic. It doesn't come with background music and a happy montage. It's a silent war. One where you either face the pain or keep dragging it behind you, pretending it's gone. And most people choose the second, because it's easier to say I'm over it than to ask, why does it still hurt? But pretending you're fine doesn't stop the damage. It just makes you numb to it. And numbness feels safe until it starts costing you everything real. Because if you numb the pain, you numb the joy. If you block out the memory, you also block out the lesson. If you refuse to feel, you forget how to connect. That's how pain keeps winning. Not by staying loud, but by becoming invisible. And as long as you confuse silence for peace, you'll never actually heal. You'll just repeat different people, different places, same wounds, same outcome. And one day you'll wake up and realize you didn't escape your past. You just recreated it with different actors. Because nothing heals without being faced. Nothing goes away because you want it to. And closure, real closure, it's the moment you finally admit that what happened still shapes who you are today. Not to stay a victim, but to stop living like one in disguise. You think you're past it because the day goes on. You eat, you work, you laugh at a meme or two, you reply to texts, you even flirt back sometimes. From the outside, no one would ever guess. You've learned how to function. You've learned how to carry pain with style. Like a dancer who performs perfectly, even with broken bones under the costume. But your body knows. Your nervous system flinches before your mind has a chance to rationalize. Someone raises their voice, and your heart races, not because you're in danger, but because once you were. A compliment lands in your inbox, and you question the motive, not because they're lying, but because someone else did. A small disagreement happens, and your hands shake because part of you is already preparing for abandonment. You see, we think trauma only lives in the memories, but it lives in our behaviors, in the way you hesitate before asking for help, in the way you never say I love you first, in the way you pick people who won't choose you back, so you can relive the rejection you never understood the first time. This is what the mind does when pain is left unresolved. It turns it into patterns, and then those patterns become your personality. You think you're shy. Maybe you were just punished for expressing yourself. You think you're independent. Maybe no one ever showed up, so you stopped expecting them to. You think you're in control, but maybe you're just terrified of being powerless again. These echoes are not flaws. They're echoes of a survival instinct that never got switched off. Because the brain doesn't care about your happiness, it cares about your safety. And if shutting down, pulling away, or pushing people away kept you safe once, it will keep doing that until you show it a new way. But how can you show it a new way if you don't even realize it's still running the show? Most people don't. Most people just think, this is who I am. They don't realize it's not who they are. It's who they became to survive something they never heal from. The hyper-independence, the constant need for validation, the perfectionism, the defensiveness, the fear of rest. None of that is you. It's the armor you built when you were still bleeding, and now you wear it every day like it's your skin. That's what unresolved pain does. It doesn't cry out, it shapes your life silently. You don't yell about the heartbreak anymore. You just avoid intimacy. You don't talk about the betrayal. You just keep one foot out the door in every relationship, just in case. You don't scream about what happened. You just become someone who never lets themselves be fully seen. And then you wonder why life feels distant, why everything is muted, why even when something good happens, it doesn't feel real. Because when you live in defense mode, joy is a threat. Love is dangerous. Peace is foreign. And so you sabotage. You say the wrong thing. You ghost them before they can ghost you. You pull away when they try to come closer. And you tell yourself it's instinct. It's not instinct. It's programming. Your pain is programming you to believe that what you want is unsafe. So you chase what's familiar instead. You chase people who don't see you. You chase love you have to beg for. You chase chaos because peace feels suspicious. And that's not your fault, but it is your responsibility, because as long as you don't recognize these behaviors for what they are, symptoms, you'll keep treating them like your identity, and you'll live an entire life based on reactions to things that aren't happening anymore, but still control you as if they are. This is how the past survives. Not in the history books of your memory, but in the way you hold your breath every time someone says, "We need to talk." Not in the pain itself, but in the story you tell yourself to protect it. I don't need anyone. I'll never be enough. No one stays. It's safer to be alone. That story is not your truth. It's your protection. And you can't heal what you keep defending. You're not broken. You're just echoing things you were never allowed to process. But now you have a choice: to keep acting like everything is fine while silently unraveling, or to finally listen to what your behavior has been trying to tell you, that you don't need to be fixed. You need to be felt. You think time heals everything, but the subconscious keeps score, not in days or years, but in patterns, in triggers, in unspoken fears, in every situation that feels too familiar, because it is. That's the thing about unprocessed pain. It doesn't leave, it just finds new masks. You don't remember the exact words that broke you, but your subconscious does. You don't remember how many nights you cried alone, but your nervous system flinches at the idea of asking for help. You don't think the betrayal changed you, but you can't trust even the ones who've done nothing wrong. Because while your mind forgets to protect you from reliving the pain, your subconscious prepares you to never feel it again, even if that means never feeling anything again. The subconscious doesn't work in logic, it works in survival. It's the reason you cancel good plans last minute, the reason you pull away when someone says, "I love you," the reason you can't enjoy peace without waiting for it to collapse. It's the voice that says, "Don't relax. Last time you did, it all fell apart." So you stay alert, guarded, prepared for a war that already ended. But when you live like that long enough, you become the one starting the war. You begin to provoke distance so it doesn't surprise you. You create rejection so you don't have to fear it. You destroy good things because your subconscious still believes safety comes from being alone. Not because you're broken, but because once upon a time, alone was safety. Alone meant no one could lie, no one could leave, no one could shatter the illusion of forever you were so desperate to believe in. So now you replay the same emotional script with different people. You push away before they can pull away. You test people until they fail, then call it confirmation. You settle for less, not because it's all you think you deserve, but because it feels more familiar than the risk of being loved fully. And this is what no one tells you about healing. Most of your pain lives in the invisible decisions you make daily. Who you text back, what you avoid, what you tolerate, what you sabotage without realizing it. The subconscious keeps score by repetition. So if you've been abandoned, you'll keep picking people who are halfway out the door because that's what feels like home. If you were judged, you'll silence yourself, thinking that's what strength is. If you were neglected, you'll believe your needs are too much, so you don't even speak them aloud. And the most tragic part? You'll defend those behaviors. You'll say, I just don't like being vulnerable, or I prefer to be low maintenance, or I'm just more productive alone. But these aren't truths. They're trauma responses that have been running your life so long, you've mistaken them for personality traits. It's not your fault, but it is your map, because if you pay attention to the patterns, you'll find the pain. And if you find the pain, you'll know where to heal. You'll begin to see that every time you shut down, pull away, lash out, stay silent, it's not you being difficult. It's you trying to protect yourself from a version of pain you never want to feel again. But in doing that, you block out every version of peace you've never allowed yourself to receive. This is the paradox of the subconscious. The very thing trying to protect you is also what's keeping you stuck. Because the subconscious doesn't care about growth. It cares about what's familiar. Even if that means repeating a story where you always end up hurt, at least you saw it coming, and that false sense of control becomes addictive. So here you are, years later, still building your life around wounds you thought you left behind, still living like the betrayal is 5 minutes away, still turning away from people who want to love you because your subconscious whispers, they will leave too, until you wake up and realize that maybe the danger isn't outside of you anymore. Maybe it's in the way you've learned to think. Maybe the battlefield isn't your relationships, it's your memories. Maybe you're not running from people, you're running from yourself. But the good news, if your subconscious can be programmed through repetition, it can also be reprogrammed through awareness. And awareness starts like this: by noticing, by pausing when the impulse to push someone away arises, by asking, is this fear talking or truth? By catching yourself in the act of self-sabotage and choosing differently even when it terrifies you. Because healing isn't deleting the past, it's rewiring the present. And that starts the moment you stop letting your subconscious run your life without your permission. You say you're over it, but every time their name comes up, you change the subject. Every time a song reminds you of that season in your life, you hit skip. You keep yourself busy, you keep your mind loud, you keep your days full because silence might let the truth slip in. That's not healing, that's hiding. And you've become really good at it. You've learned how to smile without feeling. You've learned how to laugh without connecting. You've learned how to survive without ever having to sit still long enough to remember. But the pain you refuse to face doesn't disappear. It mutates. It becomes the reason you can't rest, the reason you chase goals like a drug, the reason you attach to unavailable people, sabotage closeness, numb your feelings through endless scrolling, drinking, working, anything but feeling. Avoidance is your coping mechanism, and no one blames you for it, because some days it was too much. You had to compartmentalize just to get through. You had to fake peace because real peace felt unreachable. But now the danger is gone, and the avoidance stayed. And it's eating you from the inside out. It doesn't scream, it whispers in your habits. It controls you without making a sound. Because the parts of you you've been avoiding haven't moved on. They're still stuck in that memory, still waiting for you to turn around and say, I'm here now, you can come home. But you keep running. You keep telling yourself, I don't want to dwell on the past. But healing isn't dwelling. It's returning to the moment the wound happened and bringing light to it so it stops running your life from the dark. And most people never do that. Most people keep building identities on top of avoidance. They say things like, "I'm just not a very emotional person. I'm not looking for anything serious. I prefer to stay busy. I don't do vulnerability." And they say it with pride. But pride is often just protection. Because if you stopped avoiding, if you sat still long enough, if you let yourself remember what it felt like to be rejected, overlooked, unloved, discarded, what would happen? You'd break. You'd feel it all again. And your body doesn't want that. Your mind doesn't want that. It's built a system specifically to prevent that. But healing requires it, because you cannot let go of what you refuse to touch. And avoidance is touching nothing. It's the silence you keep around certain years of your life. It's the way your voice shakes when someone asks about your childhood. It's the fact that you can't cry unless you're alone, because somewhere along the line, you learn that emotion equals weakness, and weakness equals danger. But if you can't feel it, you can't release it. If you won't face it, you'll keep living with it as your shadow. And shadows don't disappear when you run. They follow. That's the truth you've been avoiding. Not just about the person who hurt you, not just about the moment that broke you, but about the fact that you've built your life around that pain while telling yourself it's behind you. You're not over it if it still controls your decisions. You're not healed if you still avoid the silence. You're not free if you're still haunted, and you don't need to go back and relive it all in vivid detail. You just need to stop lying to yourself that you're unaffected. You're not. No one is. We are all carrying things we've tried to bury. But your healing begins where your avoidance ends. It begins the moment you stop saying, "I'm fine," when you're not. It begins the moment you stop laughing off the trauma like it was a joke. It begins the moment you stop choosing people who won't choose you, just to prove a wound right. Avoidance is temporary comfort, but it comes at the cost of permanent peace. And sooner or later, you'll feel the cost, in the form of burnout, in the form of anxiety that doesn't make sense, in the form of relationships that feel like déjà vu, in the form of a life that looks full but feels empty. And the only way out is through the pain, through the stillness, through the moment you finally say, "This happened, it hurt, and I'm ready to feel it." Because that's how the cycle ends. Not with distraction, with honesty. And if you can be brave enough to face what you've spent years avoiding, you might finally get to live a life that isn't ruled by what you pretend you've forgotten. You say you're ready for love. You say you've let go of the past. But the truth is, what you call love now is just another reenactment. You keep choosing people who remind you of the pain, not because you want to suffer, but because some part of you is still trying to win the game you lost years ago. You're not dating them. You're dating the wound. You're not falling in love. You're trying to rewrite a story that ended without closure. That's why you're drawn to the emotionally unavailable, to the distant, to the one who makes you prove yourself. Because if you can make them stay, maybe it means the last one was wrong to leave. If you can fix this one, maybe you were never broken to begin with. It's not conscious. You don't wake up and say, "Let me repeat my trauma today." But that's what's happening every time you chase someone who won't choose you. Every time you try to earn love instead of receive it. Every time you stay with someone who reminds you, quietly, subtly, of the first person who taught you that love meant suffering. You're not reliving the relationship. You're reliving your role in it. And your role was this: if I just try hard enough, I'll be good enough to stay. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. And most people don't know they're doing it because it feels so familiar. The emotional distance, The walking on eggshells, the chase, the high of temporary approval, the crash of silence. It's all too close to home, because it is home. It's what you learned love looked like. Maybe it was a parent who only showed affection when you performed. Maybe it was a first love who made you feel replaceable, even when you gave them everything. Maybe it was years of being needed but never chosen. And now, you're still playing that part, still overgiving, still under-receiving, still getting angry, but calling it love. Anger and love get confused when you've never seen a safe version of either. So you lash out, you punish, you cling, you shut down, you manipulate without meaning to, because no one taught you how to stay present in love. They only taught you how to survive it. And so you keep writing yourself into the same role. The one who gives everything and gets crumbs. The one who's always trying, always proving, always almost enough. And when someone does love you easily, gently, fully, you don't trust it. You pull away. You say, it's too much. It's too fast. I'm not ready. But what you're really saying is, this doesn't match my wound, so I don't know how to respond. That's what the unhealed heart does. It mistrusts what doesn't feel like suffering, because suffering became the script, and anything outside of it feels suspicious. You wonder why you keep ending up hurt. It's because you're not choosing with your healed mind. You're choosing with your broken memory, and broken memories have a taste for pain. So you confuse chemistry with chaos. You confuse working through problems with surviving emotional starvation. You think love is supposed to hurt a little? That's not love. That's reenactment. And the tragedy of reenactment is this. You always know how it ends, but you keep hoping this time will be different. And every time it ends the same way, the pain goes deeper. Until one day you start believing the worst lie of all. Maybe this is all I deserve. Number, it's just all you've learned to expect. And what you expect, you accept. But you can learn a new way. You can unlearn the idea that love has to be a battlefield. You can rewire your nervous system to recognize peace as safe, not boring. You can step out of the role of the one who has to prove their worth and finally play the one who simply receives what they've been giving all along. But it starts with awareness. You have to look at the pattern. You have to ask, why do I chase? Why do I run? Why do I stay when I'm not seen? Why do I lash out when I want to be held? Your anger is not the problem. It's the alarm. It's the voice of a younger you who's tired of reliving the same pain. But you don't heal by finding someone new to play the opposite role. You heal by changing your own, by no longer being the one who overextends, overcompensates, and overcommits in the hope of finally being enough. You are already enough, but as long as you keep playing old roles, you'll keep finding new people to validate the same wound, and it will always end the same way. More pain, more confusion, more silence where love should have been, until you decide, enough, and finally write a new script, where love feels like peace, where anger becomes clarity, where the past is no longer the compass, but just the map that got you here. People talk about healing like it's this calm spiritual process, like you light a few candles, play soft music, write in a journal, and wake up one day reborn. But the truth? Healing is brutal, it's ugly, it's loud on the inside and quiet on the outside. It's crying at random moments you can't explain. It's feeling like you're falling apart just when you thought you were finally okay. Because healing isn't peace, it's war, not against anyone else, against the version of you that survived. The one who shut down to stay sane, the one who laughed to avoid crying, the one who smiled at people who broke them, the one who kept going even when everything inside was begging to stop. That version of you got you through it, and now healing means letting them go. And that hurts, because you became attached to the armor. It was your identity. It was your control. But healing asks you to give that up, to feel what you tried to bury, to face the memories you blurred on purpose, to sit in silence and listen to the parts of yourself you've ignored for years. And when you do, it feels like dying, because part of you is the part that held it all together, the part that kept smiling while breaking, the part that said, "I'm fine," when you weren't even close. Letting that part go isn't peaceful. It's terrifying. It's crying without knowing why. It's losing friends who only like the mask. It's being misunderstood because you no longer want to play the role they're used to. It's lonely because healing makes you different. And not everyone wants to meet the healed you. They want the version of you who tolerated more, who said yes when they meant no, who never asked for much. But healing teaches you boundaries. And boundaries often look like walls to people who benefited from your lack of them. So as you grow, you'll lose some things. Comfort, familiarity, people. You'll question if it's worth it. You'll wonder if maybe you were better off pretending, because pretending at least didn't hurt this much. But here's what no one tells you. Pretending hurts forever. Healing only hurts for a while. Pretending is quiet misery. Healing is loud liberation. Pretending is staying in the same cycle, hoping for a different outcome. Healing is destroying the cycle so you can build something real. It's messy, it's exhausting, it's relentless, but it's the only way out, because there's no shortcut. You can't skip the grief. You can't fast forward through the loneliness. You can't bypass the nights where it feels like your chest is caving in and no one even notices. That's part of it. That's when the real work happens. In the dark, in the stillness, in the moments where you finally feel what you've spent years running from. And in those moments, you'll want to quit. You'll say, "Why now? I was fine before." But you weren't fine. You were distracted. You were numb. You were functional, but not free. Healing strips away the distractions. It forces you to see what's real. The pain, the truth, the self you abandoned just to survive. And that's why it hurts. Because when you finally meet the version of you who never got to speak, you'll feel shame for ignoring them, for silencing them, for blaming them for being too sensitive when they were the only one telling the truth. But that shame, that's not your enemy. It's your signal. It means you're waking up. It means you're ready. And it means you're done living for other people's comfort. Because healing will cost you your comfort. It will cost you your image, but it will give you your life back. Not the life that looks good on paper. Not the one that checks all the boxes. Not the one that keeps everyone else happy. Your life, the one where you're honest, where you feel things deeply and express them without apology, where you say no without guilt, where you walk away from people who drain you, even if you love them, where you choose peace over performance. That life isn't built in ease. It's built in the brutal, beautiful process of healing, where every tear is a release, every breakdown is a breakthrough, every goodbye is a return to yourself. So no, healing isn't pretty, but it's real, and real is what you've always needed. You think letting go means forgetting. It doesn't. Letting go doesn't mean you'll never think about them again. It doesn't mean the memory won't sting or the song won't pull something from your chest. It doesn't mean your eyes won't still water when you drive past a place that used to feel like everything. Letting go means something deeper. It means making peace with the fact that what happened, happened, that it mattered, that it shaped you, but it doesn't get to define you anymore. It means no longer needing to rewrite the story, no longer waiting for the apology, No longer keeping the wound open just to prove that it was real, because it was. Your pain was valid, but keeping it alive in your mind, replaying it like a film you can't stop watching, that's not proof of strength. That's a prison, and the door has always been open, but you were afraid to leave. Because if you walked out, who would you be without the pain? Who would you be if you stopped clinging to the identity of the one who was betrayed, rejected, overlooked, abandoned? You'd be you. And that's the scariest part of healing, not the pain, but the unfamiliarity of peace. You've known chaos so long, you've confused it with personality. But now you're starting to see it clearly. Letting go doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means accepting that it did and deciding that it doesn't control your next move. It means when you feel the old trigger rise, you pause and respond instead of react. It means when the voice in your head says, "You're not good enough," you know it's not truth, it's trauma. It means when love comes knocking again, you open slowly, but you open. You stop making new people pay for what old ones did. You stop living in reaction. You stop needing the past to stay relevant in order for you to feel understood. Because now, you understand yourself, not perfectly, not all at once, but enough to see the difference between a reflex and a reality. Enough to breathe through the discomfort instead of running from it. Enough to hold space for your old self while you grow into your new one. This is what integration looks like. It's not erasing the pain, it's placing it where it belongs, in the past. Still there, still meaningful, but no longer steering the ship. You don't have to hate what happened. You don't have to glorify it either. You just have to make room for both the wound and the wisdom. Because if you only identify with the wound, you stay a victim. And if you only chase the wisdom, you skip the part that actually hurts. But both are sacred. The pain taught you. The process reshaped you. The healing freed you. Now, you get to choose. No longer from fear, no longer from habit, no longer from the subconscious scorecard of unfinished business. You choose from wholeness. You love from presence. You let go, not because it didn't matter, but because you finally do. You matter. Your peace matters. Your future deserves more than recycled pain disguised as personality. Letting go is not erasure. It's evolution. It's holding your past gently in your hands and saying, "Thank you for getting me here, but you don't get to take me further." It's trusting that what's ahead of you isn't meant to compete with what broke you, but to build you into something the pain never could. Because pain can open the door, but only peace can let you live in the room. And peace comes when you stop resisting what already happened. You don't need to go back and change it. You don't need them to say they're sorry. You don't even need to understand why it happened. You just need to bring it home, to make it part of the story, not the author, to walk beside it, not behind it, to love yourself even though it happened. And maybe one day, because it happened, that's integration, that's the real letting go. Not a performance, not a moment, but a return to yourself, to your truth, to a life not built on what hurt, but on what healed. Maybe no one ever told you this before, but healing doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you dramatic. It doesn't make you less than. It makes you honest. Because pretending you're over it only works for so long, until your body starts breaking down, until your relationships feel like mirrors, until you keep seeing the same ending, no matter how many times you start again. And then you realize you're not being punished, you're being shown the same pattern, the same pain, the same silence. All of it is a message. And the message is this: you're ready. You're ready to stop running, ready to stop pretending you're okay, just to keep the world comfortable, ready to stop carrying everyone else's weight while your own truth gets buried underneath. Because the longer you deny it, the longer it controls you. And you've given it enough of your time, enough of your energy, your joy, your sense of self. You don't owe your pain your personality. You don't need to keep proving how strong you are by pretending it never happened. You're allowed to say, yes, it hurt. Yes, I carried it longer than I should have. Yes, I'm still learning how to let it go. That's not weakness, that's courage. And it's the beginning of everything new. Not because you erase the past, but because you stop being controlled by it. So if this video felt like looking in a mirror you've been avoiding, good. That means you're ready to face what's been running the show from behind the curtain. And once you do, you take your power back. Not all at once, not in a perfect cinematic moment, but breath by breath, choice by choice, day by day, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you're no longer surviving the past. You're living your life fully, freely, finally.